Now we shall go to the 13th shloka. Dehino'smin yathaa dehe kaumāram yauvanam jaraa tathā dehaantara praaptir dheeras tatra na muhyati. The translation goes as, just as childhood, youth and old age in this body is to the embodied soul, so also is the attaining of another body. Calm souls are not deluded thereby. We have seen in the previous shloka, Krishna stressing on the fact that you have to move out of this obsessive perception of seeing people as bodies. Look into yourself and you will realize that you are not just the body, but you are something more powerful, something more ingrained, something more solid from within. Now, this talk being for spiritual seekers, generally most of you would have heard the word of the Atman. But here we are not speaking of the Atman. We are going stage by stage. Now the first stage is to get rid of the notion that we are this body, simply because we realize that this body is an expression of the inner entity within us. The inner entity being far more powerful, far more resilient and indestructible than the physical body. Any changes that happen to the physical body do not bring about a destructive change in the mental world. Here, Krishna brings in the concept of deha and dehi. Right? Deha is the body. Dehi is the embodied soul. That is the inner stuff. When I say embodied soul, we do not mean the Atman. It is the Atman plus the antahkarana. The antahkarana is made up of manas, chitta, buddhi and ahankara. Chitta is the mind stuff. Memory and all of them have their place there. Manas is the plans that we make according to our desires. All our desires and all are stored in the chitta. And then we have the ahankara, with every thought process that springs up from the chitta and the resolve of the manas. The ahankara associates itself as I am the doer. This is mine, these are my thoughts. The ahankara springs up like that. And then there is the buddhi, the determining faculty. Based on the evolution of the soul, the buddhi is guided to determine what is good, what is not. Based on the experience of the soul of what is right, what is wrong, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, according to its own evolution, the buddhi says go ahead or do not go ahead. Now, if there is no experience, the buddhi would want to do something to gain that experience. Whether the outcome of that experience is bad or good is immaterial. The buddhi wants to learn what it takes for it to evolve. And the buddhi guides the manas accordingly. This is the antahkarana. And this is powered by the soul. This is called dehi, the embodied soul. Deha is the physical entity. This physical entity is constantly undergoing modifications. And this is what Krishna is trying to present here. That the body undergoes the modifications of childhood, youth and old age. And just as it goes through old age, again it appears as youth, childhood, youth and old age. Like this, it attains one body after another, till the mind understands that it has no purpose in this world, no desire in this world, nothing in this world that can make it happy or that can make it fulfilled. It stops to project. Now, here we are not trying to understand the Atman, nor are we trying to understand the journey of the mind and its liberation therein. That comes over a period. what is more important to understand is, who am I in this particular case? When Krishna uses the word dhīraḥ here, he simply says that the calm soul understands that the modifications of the body are not its modifications. The modifications of the mind are not its modifications. However, we are not talking of the mind, we are talking of the body. And what are the modifications that happen in the body? They are called vikaras. And these vikaras are asti. It comes into existence. Not the existence of birth, remember. It simply comes into being, physical entity in the phase of the embryo. Then jayate, it takes birth. Vardhate, it grows. Viparinamate, it changes, constantly undergoing changes of muscles and skeletal framework. Apakshiyate, it starts to decay. Vinashyati, then there is the death of the body. Simply that the body cannot sustain the prana, so the prana lets go of the body. Now when you say let's go and all, let's not chase that word. It simply means that the body no more withstands the prana and it undergoes destruction. These are the modifications, the 6 vikaras that happen to the body. One has to first calmly understand that. Whenever we are embodied, whenever we have this body within us, every phase in this body has this tendency to show you that you are permanent, that there is a permanent existence to this body. People a little awakened understand that after the age of 35, whenever there are celebrations, they realize that it's not really celebrating birth, but it is actually the acknowledgement of death, and then there is a little awakening. Yet, most of the times when we are in the body, we take this to be permanent. And the physical world within which this body is in contact with also gives a sense of permanency. Now, Krishna here understood that Arjuna had the same problem, and likewise all seekers have the same problem. With the pursuit of desires, with the pursuit of ambitions, with the pursuit of emotions, its modifications, its development, its purification. The engagement that is there for this, the interface that is there for this is only this world. And therefore, we have, and that therein, there is a sense, therein brings within us a sense of permanence to this. And this permanence of this is delusional. When we understand clearly that this body is going to undergo these modifications, come what may, there is an insight that is developed. And an insight that is developed to us has its principles on the very sense of existence. We cannot think of ourselves as non-existent. No matter how much we try, we cannot think of ourselves as non-existent. And that is when the idea that we are the body starts to weaken, when we acknowledge that these modifications are undergoing. There is in us a strong sense of existence, a strong sense of permanence, a strong sense of isness. This strong sense is truth, but it is translated to the body, which is the delusion. This is to be understood very clearly. It is not that somebody can argue, no, the body is real, my existence is real, I feel this is all real. It's not about the reality or the unreality of things. It is about the permanence and impermanence of things. And if it is true that the impermanence of the body is going to bring in a sense of impermanence in me, a wise soul just cannot accept it. There is that permanence which I can sense very strong. It is this permanence that is the key to understanding of a spiritual nature. Only it has been wrongly identified with the body and its modifications. Finer still, it has been wrongly identified with the mind and its modifications. However, mind and its modifications and standing separate from it is a higher task. More importantly is the body. Once we have understood this, then Krishna brings in or fortifies the stand of reincarnation. Now, this reincarnation theory, as we know, has been debated much, and there is really no proof in terms of, you can bring in logical arguments, but in terms of seeing it, there is really nothing that can push us to see it as it is apart from a belief system. Suppose if a child is able to play a tabla from a very young age, we say this is the proof of reincarnation, but it's merely an inference. Everything is an inference. So that is why all these arguments against reincarnation doesn't hold ground. And Krishna here is not putting out a dictum, nor it is a belief system. That's why he uses the word dhīraḥ. Dhīraḥ is a calm, poised, focused, spiritual entity. And such an entity can actually see that it is the mind that always seeks the body. And as long as there are desires, there is no end to how much the mind will seek a body to find its expression. This expression will give the body the requirement, that is to undergo not just enjoyment but also suffering. Remember this. The projection of the body from the mind is not just to fulfill its desires. Its desires may be the desire to become rich, the desire to maybe enjoy all pleasures, sensual and emotional, all that can be there. But also there is a brighter side to it, that all these experiences are brought about for the soul simply so that it can understand its futility. That all these experiences, no matter how great, how powerful they are, cannot give me the sense of fulfillment. But till then, the body will keep producing itself to take up newer and newer experiences. It is, of course, a matter of more powerful insight to see what really incarnates and what does not incarnate. And then there is the deeper understanding of adhyasa, that it is not really about incarnating, but it is about identifying. It is about superimposition. However, we will not go there. Those concepts, when they are brought into the table right now, they become more complicated than they should be. So now our idea is to understand that we are the dehi. At least let us take it from there. And the change that it brings is something far more powerful, that we are no more considering ourselves to be a physical entity. When we observe these changes that are happening to the body, when we acknowledge that there is a sense of permanence, there is a sense of isness to it, this very acknowledgement of it and this very observation of the modifications that happen in the body weakens the identification with the body. That is all that we have to do. You don't have to say, I'm not the body. You don't have to say in a crude sense. It is not even in a crude sense or a harsh sense that we say we are not the body. It is simply the acknowledgement of the fact. When the fact is acknowledged, we learn to use the body as it is supposed to be used, rather than riding on it like you're sitting on a lion and the lion can chew you up anytime. You learn to ride on it as an instrument that is there to serve your purpose, and then your purpose totally changes to be wanting to take something that is higher than the ordinary, higher than the ordinary rut or the ordinary circling of life. The duties that we do, the commitments that we have will be pursued, will be lived up to. But the mind has attained a deeper insight. The mind has learned to rise above the delusion of the changes that it identifies itself with. And the mind now starts to acknowledge the truth. It always wanted to acknowledge the truth. But the teacher, the guru, comes here and stands like a rock, having experienced the truth, spells out the truth. When the truth is spelt out like this, the soul gains confidence and the soul starts to loosen its hold on the body. This is Krishna's attempt basically to try to free Arjuna from the delusion that has overpowered his soul. It is extremely claustrophobic, extremely choking to actually feel like we are in this body that is constantly in a change, in a state of modification and death. A true spiritual seed that has sprouted in us, if it were there, it would want us to get out of this entanglement that is there. And like I said, the entanglement is reduced not through some harsh discrimination, but merely through calm observation. It has to be as calm as possible. The calmer it is, the more the intellect will agree with what you're trying to present to it. The intellect is sharp. The intellect knows the truth. The intellect knows hypocrisy when it sees it as well. The intellect has the conscience, which we generally call as the antaratma. It knows everything within, right? It is that which can see through. And when you're calm, when you do not bring in any belief system, when you do not push some sort of a dogma, the intellect remains calm, and then it starts to observe. Even if you take a long time, it is fine, but the observation should continue to see that these modifications are there, and I am lending a sense of permanence to it. The permanence is true, but the permanence that I lend to the modifications seem to be flawed. And then there is a deeper sense of permanence within me. And the more I'm able to acknowledge that, I'm able to loosen the hold of the body. You should not immediately take your sense to the Atman. That becomes a sham of practice. In fact, you have brought the Atman to a belief system. And this is the biggest problem we have, to bring the Atman into a belief system. The Atman is always known through Shravanam and Mananam. That is, hearing about it and cogitating upon it, understanding it clearly, that I am deeper than this. But till then, at least the hold of the body has to be loosened. Krishna places this truth before him and slowly tries to raise his mind beyond that. We shall go to the other shloka in the next video. For now, I will end this with again chanting the shloka. Dehino'smin yathaa dehe, kaumāram yauvanam jaraa, tathā dehaantara praaptir dheeras tatra na muhyati.